Hey guys, jumping in right quick before I share my Black History's 26 to 2026 Rex. I just want to clarify some statements I made. Well, I want to share with you guys that I did look up the Chicago Defender. I had mentioned it in one of my Rex. The newspaper is still around, however, it's only online. That's one. Secondly, book that I um, there was a rec that I gave you on a civil rights book. It's called Run. It is a book one. I did try to search for book two. I could not find a book two. So as of today, I still don't know if there's a book two. And so, yeah, I had to look over this video, and this is going to be definitely extended. The video is about 45 minutes, so I hope you grab something to drink, something to snack on, pad, pencil, and engage me in this conversation of wonderful Black History Rex. Um, and if you have anything that you want to share after the video, please do so. I would like to hear from you. And so, let's get this video started. Hi, welcome or welcome back. This is the Nubian Review, where we talk about books and all bookish content. Now, of course, I was going to do Rex for Black History Month, celebrating 100 years of beautiful blackness in these United States. So, what I'm about to do, and I hope I hit it on the mark, but I'm quite sure you guys will let me know if I don't. I want to tell the story of my people in a sense where I want to put us in the center of the universe. So some of these books that I have, and this is not, a definitive collection, but this is just a fracture of a fracture of a fracture of a guide to help those who want to learn and understand more about Black history as we know it. So, the books I'm going to share, like I said, I'm sharing this story, and I hope I'm telling the story, or at least in the timeline, correctly. So, let's get into this. So, the first book that I have is Born in Blackness by Howard French. This book right here is on my 26 to 2026 to read. This tells the story of Black people, our origins, and what happened if we put Black people in the center of everything, or how will the world look, right? This book right here has a part two, but we're just introducing the part one. This definitely gets into the history of the parts that Black and African people played to build this world. Howard W. French, Born in Blackness. My next book definitely is popular amongst a lot of people. Not saying Born in Blackness is not, but this one right here is more of a tune where this author has reached out, or has been able to reach across age and cultural boundaries. And definitely when I read this book, I still have my note cards in here, so I'm going to be careful not to drop them out. Black AF History, The Unwatched Story of America, Michael Harriot. This book is for those who are looking to get everything about Black history. It tells, and the beautiful thing about this book is that it is highly, highly readable for those who are not into fiction, nonfiction, and so it breaks up the story. Well, for one, the writing is extremely soulful, but it breaks up into sections where it's readable. You can digest it, and you can come back and come for more. So, Michael Harriot tells the story of Black history as it pertains to the first people who are here. Well, the first batch of slaves who were brought here to America into its current existence. It's a beautiful story. He definitely weaved the story together that I think that any people of any age or any generation will love reading this. So, Black AF History, definitely a book that everyone should have on their bookshelf. So now that we've talked about a little bit about, the history of Black people and the history of, slavery in the United States, let's move on to some of the people who were definitely freedom fighters in this cause. So the people that I'm going to, the books that I'm going to recommend are of people who were considered, who were Black, who were part of the abolition movement. Now, here's to say that there are other people and backgrounds who have helped with the cause of ending slavery, aka John Brown and others. But I want to focus on Black people who were part of that cause. And so, this book, America to the Backbone, The Life of James W.C. Pennington, the fugitive slave who became the first Black abolitionist, author Christopher L. Weber, is definitely a good source of reference if we want to talk about abolitionists and the part Black people did play in their own freedom. The next one is definitely one that we don't get the opportunity to. I've heard of him only because of other work that was featured by him, but W. Wells Brown, An African American Life, Israel Greenspan, definitely one of the abolitionists that I really just newly discovered his work, and so I'm anticipating on reading this. But this is definitely a book that I highly recommend if you want to know more about, people who were part of that fight in Black freedom and Black liberty. I cannot express to you the trauma and the long-term somatic trauma that slavery has on a people. And so when I think of that, when I think of behaviors of trauma, that was definitely a symptom of long-term, how can I say, I wouldn't say neglect, because at some point we are responsible for building our communities, but at the same time, the separation of how we think about slavery and how we get there. But slavery was such a systematic engine for the United States, and it's unfortunate that we are even having the discussion about whether Black people, African Americans, deserve reparations. That is just a ludicrous conversation. And I know a lot of Black people, there are Black people who don't agree with it, but I am not one of those people. So, because I know institutional slavery exists, and it still exists in a sense, I want to address some books that I feel like that are highly appropriate for this time. Now, one of them is a historical. So we're going to get into this one. Yale and Slavery, A History by David W. Blight. This tells the story basically of how slaves built the university and their labor to this school, and how Yale is held as one of those encampments for slavery. This is something that we do not talk about a lot in our communities, about slavery origins and the trauma of slavery and how institutions helped wield that. But this definitely, Blight is also the author of Frederick Douglass, and so Frederick Douglass also a prolific abolitionist. But yeah, Blight, he has written um, great books on a lot of these subject topics. I want you to check him out, David W. Blight, but definitely check out Yale and Slavery. Getting into that motion, how, like I said, the trauma from slavery is one of those things that are never ending, and you know, it's definitely a source we need to focus on, or a situation that we need to focus on in order to heal. But this book right here talks a lot about the trauma of lynching. The soul is a witness, the traumatic afterlife of lynching. And when I say afterlife, we're talking about the people who are left behind from these heinous crimes that have been done to black people. And so this book definitely goes into how lynching has affected the black community. I want to give you guys an author, Marie N. Crabtree. Yes. As some people may not talk about it as much, slavery has always existed. It was vastly across the United States, not just in the South. And so we hardly ever talk about slavery in the North, which I think I've mentioned on my channel quite a few times, that, you know, slavery was not just in the South. Slavery was rampant throughout the United States. And so, Sweet Land of Liberty, The Forgotten Struggle for the Civil Rights in the North, Thomas J. Sergio. This is actually on my 25 or 26 or 2026 reads, I'm sorry. And so this talks about the civil rights movement, and how I think a lot of people, they think that Birmingham and Mississippi, they were definitely major parts in the civil rights movement, but vastly all along, slavery in the North and black people fighting for civil rights in the North was definitely one of those conversations that if you ask somebody, they are not to talk about slavery in the North. So this book covers the fights, the origins of some of these issues they were dealing with, and yeah, segregation, the whole gambit. So yeah, Sweet Land of Liberty is definitely one that, you know, keep on your radar, because these are one of those untapped stories that a lot of people are not talking about, but probably need to be revisited. Sweet Land of Liberty. It is more than one way that black people had to fight and still fight for justice and equality. There is this book called, I want to say, The Bell Curve. And the author of The Bell Curve talks about how just black people are inferior, you know, IQ, lifestyle. Yeah, I can't get into that one. But Bell Curve is one of those books that I think anyone who's interested in how they come up with, you know, the dominant culture, come up with their formula, I think that one's probably a good one for you to read. But we're not highlighting that one. We're going to highlight we're going to highlight the argument that the Bell Curve made, opposing the argument the Bell Curve made, I'm sorry. And so this author, she is widely known for her famous book, The Medical Apartheid, which goes into the health of how black people, how can we say, how black people are treated in the medical industry, and how our voices are not heard or valid, and how, you know, there's definitely a neglect on a lot of our medical providers to even engage the thought of healing black bodies. Yeah, so I want to introduce another one of her books that I hear very little about. I don't think I heard about this one, but it's been out for a while. A Terrible Thing to Waste, Environmental Racism. It's Assault on the American Mind, Harriet W. Washington. This book definitely gets into how black communities are definitely fueled with toxic air, even the quality of the food, and it does have a long-term effect on our thinking, on our wellness, how we interact. If you think coffee, the caffeine of coffee, it keeps you, like some people say, it keeps me up and alert, and I drink the caffeine because it helps me out. Think about that in the negative sense to how black people have been doxxed since the emancipation of slavery. And I'm gonna say while in slavery, because our ancestors ate the scraps, right? As they say, they made a way out of no way. They're still doing that now, and a lot of our black community, and I want to say urban centers where mostly populated black people live, the quality of the foods that even just being even shipped to our grocery store are not of highest of quality. But this author, she goes into the environmental effect of that, the toxins in the air, the businesses that are placed in black communities, that leave these remnants in the air of just, like having long-term effects. I can talk about this book all day long, but I highly encourage you guys to put this on your radar to read. A Terrible Thing to Waste, Harriet Washington. Definitely one for the books. The next one is a prolific activist of the Black Power movement, and he wrote a book about his life. So he wrote his autobiography with the help of, well, who was it? Ekume Thelwell. And so this book is about Stokely Carmichael, the life and the struggles of Stokely Carmichael. Kwame Ture, Ready for Revolution, tells his story in his own voice about his childhood and how he rose to choose to be an activist for black voices. Definitely a great read. Put that on your radar. Now, what we're dealing right now in our current political climate, and I hope years from now when you guys see this video that this will not be the case, but I'm talking to the here and the now. The rights, the First Amendment rights that we are dealing with. Let me sip my drink. Those rights, there are really the Constitution, just I wouldn't say just a sheet of paper, but they have been used to frame the, how can I say, frame our culture in how in the rules that we abide by. Well, currently we're dealing in a political system where no one's really abiding by any rules, and that's just where we at. There has been reporters, mainly black reporters, who have been arrested for exercising their First Amendment rights. And I know someone made a comment about, because they were a reporter or they have a history, they have a right. The Constitution guarantees everyone having that First Amendment right to speak and say what they want to say. And sometimes, people say things that we don't agree with, that's infuriating. However, they have that right. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to engage it. But we all should have that right. And we all should have the right to combat myths and untruths. So in saying that, let me introduce these couple of batch of books. And I do have another one, but I'm not going to show it on this particular video. I may show it on like a smaller clip. But I do want to focus on these two, because these are definitely focusing on black communities where, we have our own newspapers and all of that other good stuff. But let me get back, because I'm rambling now. The Defender, How the Legacy Black Newspapers Changed America, Ethan McAnally. And so this book is definitely one for the ages. Yeah, when we think about neighborhood newspapers, and I have to check and see if the Defender is still around. When we think about neighborhood newspapers and how black people got their information. I remember reading, it was one book that I was reading about the civil rights movement and how train porters, they will bring mail from one state to another state, and they will share, you know, what's going on the ground, like boots on the ground. And we have all of this technology, and we can't even get on the same page, you guys. But that is the curse of having too many luxuries, too many ideologies. And so, yeah, that I'm getting off course. The Defender is probably one of those newspapers that, you know, actually when I was growing up, I used to read all the time. And so I think they went to a digital platform. I'm not sure, but y'all, you know, remind me something in the comments if you're interested. I'm going to see if they're still around. And then, yeah, this book, this paper right here definitely informed black people of politics. And to those of you who say, I'm not political, every fiber of your being is political. Where you live, where you work, the positions you hold, the friends you have, what you eat, how you view the world, all of that is through a political lens. And so for those of us who keep saying I'm not political, I think it's just a way of saying I don't want to be bothered, you know, with the troubles of the world. However, if you don't engage, you know, engage the scene on what's going on, or even trying to address it in another way in community, it will set you back further than when we need to go. The next one, The Race Beat. The Press, the Civil Rights Struggle, and the Awakening of a Nation. I read this book, oh my goodness, a long time ago. Gene Roberts, and I could never say his name. Calabanov. This is actually on audio, you guys, if you want to listen to this. But definitely this goes into, once again, the part that the black press made in messaging issues of the civil rights movement. This definitely is one of those books, hands down, was a great read for me. It's probably time for a reread, but it was definitely a great read. And so I encourage you guys to check this one out, The Race Beat. Now let's get into some fun, because yeah, let's get into some nonfiction, you guys. So I'm going to pull some books. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you all. I only have 3 nonfiction books, but let me give you one of them. If I said nonfiction, I mean fiction, like novels and stuff like that. These 3 books I want to highlight because it had the presence of Africa, or the presence of black people at the center of the story. Now, this author, oh my goodness, his work, I love his work. Kwame Alexander, The Door of No Return. This book, this is definitely a middle school book, but he writes it in prose. It is about a village in Africa, and that's all I got at this point. I have not read this one particular set because this is a series and I want to get all 3 of them, but it's definitely on my radar. So let me see if I can go to a short snippet for those of you who are interested in getting it for yourself or for your young person. Okay, a history unknown will replay itself. We must tell the boy that he needs to know. Young Kofi lives a dream on the banks of the river often. He loves these things above all else. His family, the fireside tales of his father's father, a girl named Amma, and of course swimming. It is in the river that he feels inconceivable. Let me redo that. It is in the rivers that he feels invincible, and there he thinks he can finally prove himself in a race against the schoolyard rival. But the river also holds dark secrets that Kofi soon discover. Told never to venture there after nightfall, but never told why. Kofi seeks his own answers. One night is all it takes to transform a life. As his world turns upside down, Kofi ends up in a harrowing journey that steals him away from everything he loves. And so, this is a story of adventure, epic tales, betrayal, bravery, and I'm just quoting, like paraphrasing it. But it tells the story of Kofi, who was, a young, curious boy who decided that, to not heed the warning, but go on his own journey. And so, I got this book a while ago. I'm going to tell you guys a short story because I don't want to make this long. When I got this book, I originally, of course, if you've seen my other videos, I got this book for my son a long time ago. And so he was not interested in reading this. He said this is not the type of books that he reads, but hopefully one day he will get to it. But he do have interesting books that he reads himself, so I'm not going to worry about that. But in this one right here, I think this is a 3-part series. And so when I got it, I wanted to collect all 3 of them before I read it. And I want to tell you guys something. So when the second book came out, I think all 3 of them are out right now. The jacket covers are completely different. Same publisher, same printing, cover. And so that kind of bothered me. I shouldn't let it bother me, but I want my books to look like it's telling a story, and it didn't look like it was telling a story. So that's first world problems. We're not going to worry about that. But this is definitely on my radar to read myself. But for your young person who wants to, if you want to immerse them in, Black authors, Black male authors, in the African culture, the setting of this is in Ghana. And so I just thought that this was definitely a relevant choice for a recommendation for Black history. Normally, I don't recommend children books on this channel, but every now and then I like to sneak them in because I would like to believe that the people who are watching me know 1 or 2 young people, or a few young people in their life that they can give a good book rec to. So we always got to look out for our young people, you guys. The next one is Africanville. This is a gem. I have not read this one yet, but I do want to refer because, once again, it centers around Africa and Black people. And this is a debut author. His name is Jeffrey Colvin. So let me read a little snippet of this. It explores the identity, is the nation's identity, passing, cross-racial relationships, the importance of place and the meaning of home. Africanville tells the large story of the Black experience in parts of Canada and United States. Vibrant and lyrical, filled with colorful details, and in a powerful hunting voice. This extraordinary article, as atmospheric and steeped in history as the known world, the Underground Railroad, and the 12 Tribes of Haiti, is a landmark work to sure to be a major literary talent. And when I bought this and I read the description in the back, I knew this was something that I wanted to read. Matter of fact, The Known World, while I'm recording this, is my book of the month for February. So if you're interested, go check that out and you'll see what I'm currently reading. The Underground Railroad, that is on my TBR to read. And so the 12 Tribes of Haiti, it's not. However, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably need to add that on there. But I definitely can't wait to get into this. I want to recommend this to you guys. I love finding first, time authors, like author debuts, because it gives you a sense of who the person is in their writing. Because over time that may change. But if I can find an author's original work and see the transformation in the evolution of their writing, I think it's a beautiful thing. So the next one, you guys, this is a book I am currently reading. So I want to tell you much about it, but I will say this. I'm definitely recommending this to you. And here's the thing. I'm not even going to tell you what the book is about. I'm going to give you a snippet, okay? Sky Full of Elephants, Sibo Campbell. Now, I think in my previous video, I said that, something about, white people walking into the water and disappearing. All I'm going to say is that for Black History Month, put this on your list of books to read sometime this year, hopefully sometime soon. Yeah, it's good. I can't tell you guys because, yeah, I'm going to do a reading wrap up on this, and so you'll hear about this soon. But yeah, on my TBR for February, Sky Full of Elephants, I'm currently reading it. I am recommending this to you, and I hope you get around to reading it. And this is also on audiobook and ebook if you're interested. All right. Still telling this story of America and the parts of Black people's legacy in here in the United States. There are some books, these are quick reads, but they are powerful reads that I will probably recommend over and over again. These are books that I definitely enjoyed, and so I do want to share it. Now, out of this collection, I think it's probably one book that I did not read, but it's on my list to read this year, so hopefully I will get to it sooner than later. But let me share with you the ones that I have read, and I hope that you're able to collect it and read it for yourself. On Juneteenth, Annette Gordon Reed. This tells the story of Juneteenth, the origins, and how it came about. Short read, powerful read. I make it a habit to try to read this at least once a year. Rereading and rereading, your mind frame and how you think about language, how you think about storytelling. And it depends on the frame of mind you're in when you're constantly reading. I know that I've read this a few times before, and every time I pick it up to read, I'm always discovering something new about myself, more research, more exploration in areas of my life. So yeah, on Juneteenth, great book, quick read, powerful read. I definitely refer that or suggest that for a Black History Rec. James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time. Now, if you have not read The Fire Next Time, where have you been? In The Fire Next Time, I think this is probably one of James Baldwin's short essays collections that I definitely love. It definitely gives you a portrait of the lens of who James Baldwin was and his thoughts on his life, his family, and Black culture. James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time. This one right here, I think there's a movie on this, but I'm not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys anyway. The Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, James Wyndham Johnson. Yeah, I had the pleasure of reading this in full text last year as we're speaking about it, and this is just one of those books of self-discovery I definitely loved enjoying. I will say this to anybody who has questions about identity and discovery of self. The Autobiography of Ex-Colored Man, this is definitely one of those books that is probably, it's definitely one to explore. So I want to kind of like wrap this up because you all know that I like keeping my videos 30 minutes, so I'm over 30 minutes, so we got to hurry up. Well, I got to hurry up. The next one is Show Baraka. He saw that it was good. Now, this book is about healing, creativity, where you are in the world in terms of expressing yourself. And I'm going to take this a little further because this book is not racially related. It tells Show Baraka's story. However, the examples that he's pouring out and questioning us on, like where do we find ourselves in the world, juxtaposed to everything else. Are we using our voice, our creativity, our lives as a how can I say, as a gift to others? So yeah, Show Baraka. Now, as we continue this journey, talking about Black lives, the Black living, the Black experience, and pertaining to, Black lives in the United States and globally. But pertaining to Black History Month, as we celebrated in February, a lot of times when I am given a book rec, a lot of times for Black history, I know that learning about Black history sometimes can be challenging for um, for everybody, especially, well, not everybody, not for me, but to those who want to deny or downplay the effects and the brutality that slavery has imposed on the Black um, culture and the Black anatomy and the world of people who have suffered. And I don't like to stay in a state of sorrow. I feel empowered when I am learning stories of people before me, people who fought before me. And this is why I take, learning about every aspect of myself seriously. And Black history and history of Black people is just one of them. So, as I get into this particular subject, this, I'm not, and this is not anything to say, well, you know what, be careful. This is like trigger warnings for this. This is just what it is. So, these books I'm going to share with you. The first book I want to share with you is of, and I hope I'm telling this in chronological order in terms of timing, but I want to share this one first. So, this story, the author, Tia Miles, this is a book, All That She Carried, a story of a mother who was separated from her child. And prior to being separated, the mother, she gives her daughter a sack full of like things to remember her by. And so the granddaughter of that child who was separated from her mom, she go on this exploration. Beautiful story. All That She Carried, the journey of Ashley Sachs, A Black Family Keepsake, is definitely one of those books, hands down. I would love for to put forward as a Black History rec, because discovering the past and all of the gems and the beauties of who we are as a people, that is definitely something that should be highlighted on a regular basis. My next book, and I'm hoping that I'm telling this in order, but I may not be, so I'm going to pull this one first. Race Against Time, a reporter reopens an unsolved murder case in the civil rights era, Jerry Mitchell. This is a reporter who decided to, and this is what he do for a living. I think he was a retired investigator, but opening up old unsolved cases. And so this is one of the many cases that he decided to explore and to get answers for. A reporter, he reopens the cases. And so got a blurb from John Grisham, but I have not read this. And here's the thing, and I got this right here, you guys, from the Dollar Tree. I was definitely shocked when I saw it, and I grabbed two of them. So I may be putting this in somebody's the extra one in somebody's library, but I don't know yet. In this case, I always like to grab extra books when I can, because you never know when you can gift a book to someone else. This one is definitely one that I think, as people, like we're humaning, right? That is always something triggering about unsolved cases of people, loved ones, because we only have this life. And so to think that, someone would never ever get justice, as a lot of people, are in that category of never getting, they haven't received justice. I'm glad that this investigator decided to champion subjects like this. The next one, and this is, I'm not even saying this is a trope, but this has happened to black communities throughout the United States. So this is just one of many. On Fire, the untold story, the untold history of police violence and black rebellion since the 1960s. Elizabeth Hinton. The book, the subtitle, it speaks for itself, right? Now let's get into something that I love reading these type of books, but I don't do it as frequently as I would like to. Yeah, so let me introduce this one to you guys. This is Run, book one of the civil rights, I want to say the civil rights history, but this is leading up to March, authored and co-authored by John Lewis, who wrote the story of one of his memoirs, but he did it in a graphic novel. Beautiful, y'all. Chef's kiss. This is the second part. This is Run. Now, it has his name on here, and this says book one, but I have not seen the book two. So if you know if there's a book two, please let me know. This tells definitely the story of the civil rights marches and the civil rights movements. I love me a good graphic novel. Definitely think that this is worth checking out if you are into graphic novels, and if you have a young person that's into graphic novels. This is definitely one that I will recommend to anyone who loves looking at pictures, aka me. Now, this is a book that I probably should have introduced when I introduced my first children's book, but I'm going to introduce it anyway. One of my favorite authors of all time, you guys, and I probably say that about everybody, but he is one of my favorite authors of all time. Ibram X. Kendi, Malcolm Lives, the official Malcolm X biography for young readers. Read it, love it, reading it again, going to share with you guys. I should not have said it on here, but I am definitely doing a comparison of this biography, his autobiography, and some writings, some biographies by other authors, so stay tuned for that. But I definitely love how Ibram X. Kendi made this book language friendly for our young people, or people who just want to know a little bit more about Malcolm X, but they don't want to read, his autobiography or, other books that were written by other authors, but mainly written for, adults. This right here is definitely children friendly, and it's easy to learn. What I do love about it is that he tells the story in pictures. The chapters are definitely short. So it's definitely something that you could sit down and read with a young person and absorb the chapters little by little and not get overwhelmed. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one. Hands down, young or old, Malcolm X, Malcolm Lives. Now, we're getting down to our last two books. So I don't know which one I should share first. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it. The Derrick Bell Reader. I love Derrick Bell. I was exposed to him when I was taking college classes. And so, yeah, that was like 100 years ago, but we're not going to talk about that. I love Derrick Bell. I love his work. I love his writings. And he definitely discovered or addressed a lot of topics pertaining to the the diaspora, its people, and the culture as we know it here in the United States and across the globe. He tackles issues of politics, religion, race relations. I mean, you name it, he has had an essay for it. I definitely will recommend this, highly, highly recommend it, only because this is not one of those books that you sit down and read it chapter per chapter, although you can. This is best by going through the table of contents and finding what you want to explore first, and eventually working your way around to other chapters and other subject matters. Derek Bell, hands down, scholarly work, love it. Chef's kiss. I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in litigating situations and thought processes of black people. Get that book. Last but not least, you guys, and I'm gonna have to share this one because I am so excited to read his next book, A Promised Land. I know. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen that I've talked about him ad nauseum. But he's coming out with the second part of his presidential biography. A Promised Land is the story. It's a love letter to anybody who wants to get in civil service. Now, one thing I will say, he talks in this book, like reading the book this is definitely in his voice. I encourage anybody who's into civic services, social services, outreach. This is a love letter to those people who may understand what he's talking about. And so Barack Obama, A Promised Land, is my last and final, you guys, recommendation for Black History Month 2026. So throughout the month, I will be sharing books that did not make this list because there are so many wonderful books about black people, about black lives. It did not make this list. I'm already over my proposed time. So in saying that, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any of these books, and if you read any of these books, what did you think about it? And did I have anything on this list that you are interested in reading? Let me know. Let's continue the conversation. Until next time, I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. Peace.